You know what the biggest driver I see is of most disputes? Because you might think it would be, well, you've run afoul of an EPA regulation, or you built in violation of a building code, or something like that. Much more often, there's one of two things. There's an ambiguous contract allocation of risk. Right? Either it's true, it's ambiguous. They tried to address it and didn't clearly allocate it, or had different understandings of how it was allocated. Or more often, probably much more often, nobody thought of it. So some particular problem happened, a roof collapsed, or there's a hurricane. Nobody thought there was going to be a hurricane, or one that everybody has seen recently are these supply chain shortages. So 3 years ago, when people are contracting, nobody thought, well, what if my steel doesn't come for 2 years? Who's going to bear the risk of that? Because now my project is 2 years. There's nothing the contractor can do, right? The project is 2 years late. The owner's deeply frustrated because it's waiting for its hotel or its office building or whatever. The office isn't built. Contractor feels like, well, this isn't my fault. I mean, what do you want me to do to get the steel here? There's no container ships coming. I have no control over that. But because the parties didn't think about it, they didn't allocate the risk in their contract at all. It's silent as to these things, or often nearly silent. And yet you have millions or tens or every once in a while hundreds of millions of dollars in damages because this building isn't getting done. And there's no clear, easy answer to those things. It doesn't fit into that category of let's expand the pie and do a deal that's good for everybody. You just have all this lost revenue that can't be found, can't be made up, and you have to find some way through it. No clear legal answer because the contract hasn't allocated it. And that's a perfect example of a place where clients come in very frustrated often. It's nobody's fault, right? And so whoever comes to you, whether it's the owner or the contractor, it's not their fault, and they're frustrated that either somebody's withholding millions of dollars from them or not paying them what they think their due should be millions of dollars in lost revenue. And it's a great example of a place where I think you can get real benefit from talking to a lawyer who doesn't just immediately want to get in a fight. And some of those cases you have to fight. If your business can depend on it, right? The owner's telling you you owe $10 million in liquidated damages. You don't just have $10 million sitting in the bank, and you have to fight about that if that's what it comes down to. But having somebody tell you honestly early on, you're in for 2, 3, 4, 5 years of litigation. It's going to cost you a lot of money to do it. Let's do everything we can to try to figure this out early on. Hopefully the owner will meet us halfway, or the contractor will meet us halfway, depending on who you're representing. And sometimes that doesn't work because it takes two to tango, and if everybody is not coming at it with that sort of cooperative approach and can lay their swords down and try to work it out, you can't get a deal done. But if you're going to go to war and you're going to spend all this money on litigation, it's always nice to know you did everything you could up front to try to avoid that.